Hello, it's Matt Chapman, and I am here with Marie-Louise Ek. And we're smiling because actually we go back a long way, but it's been a long time since we're physically caught up. So it's wonderful to have this time with you. How are you?
Yeah, great, Matt. It's super nice to see you. I'm doing also very well. Looking forward to our chat.
And you're also in a different country to when I last saw you. So you're sitting out of Dubai, and you also have the unusual privilege of having joined PepsiCo in January 2020 to lead Africa, Middle East, South Asia, just before the pandemic struck.
Yes, absolutely correct. So I timed it well, I must say. Spent a couple of months in the office, onboarding, meeting a few people, and since then I'm still doing that, but work from anywhere nowadays.
So it'd be great if you could just better explain your role, or in fact, you actually have two roles in PepsiCo.
Yes. So what I do in PepsiCo today, so we have the hub for the sector, which we call Africa, Middle East, and South Asia. That's based out of UAE, Dubai. Yep. So I'm heading up the functions on the HRBP, you could say, for the functions. And I'm also heading up one of the business units that we have, which is focusing on our franchise business. So working with our bottlers and the beverage production. So that's what I'm doing right now.
So how did life change for you from January 2020, probably after you had your onboarding and you moved into February and thereon?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting ride. And I think, sometimes I reflect on this in the sense that I guess for us who are office workers, I think the transition and the change, whilst it has been pretty big, I still think we're quite fortunate, right? So, I think you can work from anywhere as long as you have a connection and as long as you have, some kind of device that can connect people, right? And I know you've done that in the company that you started anyway, so this is not news for you guys, but for PepsiCo being a massive organization, right, to really within maybe 36 hours, depending on the country, just finding a way to say, okay, guys, we have to change the way we're working. And it's amazing to see that actually worked, right? Generally, you would need maybe, 12 to 18 months. You need to establish policies, procedures, approval levels, etc., to get that done. And I was like, okay, let's just do it. So I think, we spend a lot of time, I think, early on, quickly planning in terms of, PepsiCo being a very people-centric organization, right? So the employee, whether it's a frontline or a office worker, is very, in the limelight and in the forefront of our core values. So we spend a lot of time seeing how can we still, engage people and how can we make sure that we take care of people's wellness? So I think, we quickly got into that. And then maybe that was partly a change. Maybe we wouldn't have focused so much on that would the world has been, floating around like it did in Jan-Feb.
So when you look at the correlation, I think, between employee engagement and also how they are managing their lives outside the company. This has become a really important area. Obviously, a lot of people have been through a lot of change, but also organizations have been through a lot of change, and there's been more pressure than ever to pivot products and get business results. So what sorts of things have you been thinking about and seeing in that area?
So I think so first of all, I think we, if we made a rough division of frontline and office people. First of all, I think if we look at the frontline, because that's our heroes, right? So they are helping, making sure that consumers, that you can still stock your pantry with our lovely products, right? So I think for them, the focus has really been that they can anchor into the company knowing that, I can do my work safely, meaning, routines are established so that I can work safely, right? In terms of transport, in terms of warehousing, etc. And I have the adequate PPE also to be able to actually do my work effectively, right? Because there's somehow that has been exposure, right? And we worked also with actually making sure that that's transpired into the families. So how can, if my children are asking me, please stay safe, when you go to work, that's quite powerful, right? So we extended that focus into also making sure that the families are included and supportive and understand, the importance of that. Things we've done for in general, I mean, everybody has been invited and included, of course, is I think a lot of focus on mental health, because specifically for people maybe who have not had to go out to do their work, they had to stay at home doing the work. And, some of us feel like maybe that's a luxury, and to a certain extent it might be, but some people do not really like it. And maybe some people also, they live alone. So the mental well-being of, for people in terms of, we know that work hours have extended, right? So I think so work hasn't suffered so much, maybe the private life has suffered more somehow, right? So how do we help people understanding how to switch off, how to do time management, how to also actually feel connected and relate to others. I mean, we have celebrations, we have a lot of focus on health and well-being, obviously, both from a mental, but also from a physical point of view, right? You're glued to your chair many hours of the day. And how do you make sure that, you are fit and your posture and your body physics is still there to keep you going. So we spend a lot, and actually we're continuing now. I mean, some offices have gone back and reopened, and the situation is easing in many countries, but we're still continuing this. So I think we become very more, I would say, holistically empowered. So before, maybe we were empowered. I was empowered by my boss. I assume and hope that a lot of people were, but now organizations are empowering us to look at, our life more holistic. And I really think, I hope that's there to stay. And I think that's really something very positive for the employee experience.
Yeah, what I was thinking about when you were talking was just the importance of managing different cross sections of employees, and not just trying to take a one size fits all approach. When you talk about sort of the holistic management of careers, what do you think this is going to turn into? Do you think it's going to turn into better retention in the future, or do you think everything is still untested for the future, and that people could still be tired and want to change? I mean, what are you predicting will play out?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of social listening through this process, right, as well. And what we see, our PepsiCo associates are very proud of in this time, and why they rate us high specifically has been also in terms of the care for the people, and also the fact that we have appreciated a variety of employees, specifically, frontline heroes, as we like to call them. And I think, I hope this is here to stay, right? Sometimes I think we should not exaggerate the amount of change, right? Because then suddenly, then it's easy to go back from that change, rather than saying that this is an evolution. What I think in the talent space, or, retention, this will increase, hopefully, our talent pool, because we know that we can be much more inclusive. I think this is a key takeaway from the pandemic, right? The fact that we are inclusive today. You can reach everybody on a level playing field. And I think we will say, okay, let's expand the talent pool. We know we can work like this. If people are comfortable with the time zones, why do we only look here, whereas we can look, around the whole world, for example? So I think really that's one. And then I think, because the fact that we can work like this remotely, digitally, and so on, maybe we will also see that people can chip in. It's easier to understand or connect people who are good at certain things, right? So somehow maybe roles will be less boxed, less job description wise, and more based on, okay, I'm good at this. I can chip in with somebody in Brazil who's good at the same thing, and we can tie up, which maybe we could have done before as well, but we weren't forced to test it. So we didn't test it. From a overall general point of view. So, that's I think, and we have in our sector, in PepsiCo, we still have quite a lot of location-free roles. So we started this already before, saying that you don't need to sit just because you're doing a head office or a sector role, so to say. You don't need to sit in a specific space. You can actually do it from elsewhere, which again also helps diversity, by the way, because different families can move for different patterns, etc.
So, final question I've got for you is, we obviously lived on cycles. It could be performance review cycles, it cycles of whatever sort. But we've obviously gone so into the hour, the day, the week, the month, and actually the thought of longer range planning is quite tiring for many. How do you see a recalibration from such a reactive focus to going proactive and far into the future?
Yeah, I think this is a good question. We debated this quite a lot in the organization and said, so for this year, let's focus on, what's the balance of year, and the long-term planning. Obviously, we're still doing it and we need to do it. But right now is to solve the immediate crisis or the immediate situation that we need to solve today. But I think it's obviously we can never lose focus on the long term. But how I think it will change, and what I've seen, it has changed already, is more that, that agility, I think, needs to be inbuilt. And it needs to be almost something that we have by default. Before, we needed to have change by default, as a personality prerequisite somehow, and be comfortable with that. Now, I think, we need it as people, but we need it as an organization as well, to really quickly being able to change. And that means that you cannot be too blindsided maybe by the long-term plans that you have, right? So that you lose the grip of what goes on. I mean, we saw extremely fast consumer behavior changes, right? Now, if we didn't pick up on that quickly and were able to, redirect away from, when all the restaurants closed down, can't sell anything in that channel, right? But now people are sitting at home and they're all, doing, buying online, everything. So if we couldn't switch quickly, that's a lost business opportunity. So that long-term planning needs to be there, but it needs to be flexible or agile enough to certainly give constant room for changing due to circumstances.
Marie-Louise Ek, it was fantastic to catch up with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Matt.